Hey, welcome to our explainer. Today, we're diving into a really powerful idea. The thought that your full potential is basically being held captive by one single enemy, and that's distraction. We're going to break down a framework from our source material that's designed to beat it, and it's all built on three core principles: focus, vision, and, you guessed it, consistency.
So the source material kicks things off with this ancient quote. It's from a story about a guard who gets so caught up in little unimportant tasks, being busy here and there, that he lets his prisoner escape. And this is such a powerful metaphor for the problem we're talking about today, how being busy with everything can cause us to lose the one thing we're actually supposed to be protecting, our own destiny.
All right, so let's jump right in and talk about what the source calls the ultimate destiny killer. And the core argument is actually super simple. When you're pulled in a dozen different directions, your energy just gets scattered. The source says this makes you less effective, less valuable, and ultimately a whole lot less impactful. And just like that, all that forward momentum you had, it just grinds to a halt. Okay, so if distraction is the big enemy here, how do you actually fight back? Well, that brings us to the very first principle from our source: learning to harness the power of focus. The solution that's offered is simple, but man, is it powerful. Find what you are meant to do, and then stay there. It's about stopping that constant glance over at the person in the lane next to you. This isn't a race against them. It's about mastering your own path without letting what they're doing pull you off course. The source tells us a great story to really drive this home. It looks at three really influential ministers from the same time period. You had T.L. Osborne, who was holding these massive tent revivals all over the globe. You had Oral Roberts filling up entire stadiums. But then there was Kenneth Hagin. What was he doing? He stayed in one place, teaching and writing. Now, just imagine if Hagin had compared his small classes to their giant global stages. He probably would have quit. But instead, he stayed in his lane, and guess what? Decades later, his writings have shaped leaders all around the world.
And this quote, wow, it reframes focus as way more than just some productivity hack, right? It's really about generating this internal clarity. The whole idea is that when your eyes are single, when you stop looking left and right at what everyone else has going on, your whole being becomes full of light, and that light illuminates the path that's right in front of you.
And this is such a brilliant way to think about it, this converging lens analogy. The power to make an impact, it's like the energy from the sun. It's already inside you. But it's diffused, it's spread out. Focus acts like a converging lens, concentrating all that scattered energy into one single powerful beam that's capable of creating real change, of starting a fire. Okay, so you found your focus. Awesome. But what are you actually aiming that focus at? That leads us straight into the second principle: you become what you see. This whole principle is built on a pretty profound idea, really, that our outer world is a direct reflection of our inner world. What we fixate on in our minds, what we can truly see for ourselves, is what we ultimately end up becoming. And to really hammer this point home, the source uses the story of Abraham. So he's given this absolutely colossal promise that he will become the father of nations. I mean, talk about a massive destiny laid out right in front of him. But here's the catch, the big obstacle. The source argues that even this massive divine promise couldn't actually happen as long as Abraham's own vision was limited. He was just looking at his old age, his circumstances, and he simply could not see himself as a father. And because he couldn't see it, he couldn't become it. His reality was totally stuck. And the breakthrough, well, it only happens when Abraham is told to literally shift his gaze, to look up at the stars and see a vision of his future descendants. The very moment his internal vision expanded to match the promise, that's when the promise could become a reality. The source basically argues you can only possess what you can first see. Okay, so we've got focus and we've got vision, but what's the engine that actually drives them forward, day in and day out? Well, that brings us to our third principle, the law of consistency. The source draws a really sharp contrast here. On one side, you've got the jack of all trades, the person who's always starting new things but never, ever finishing. And on the other, you have the master of one, who stays on a single path. And look, this consistency thing, it's not about being boring. The source argues it actually builds this powerful momentum that leads to true mastery and eventually real lasting impact.
And to make this super concrete, the source points to some amazing examples. I mean, think about it. Bill Gates and his singular focus on Microsoft, Mother Teresa and her lifelong service to the poor in one village, or Billy Graham, who preached the same core message for over 70 years.
Their global impact didn't come from dabbling in 1,000 different things. It was forged through decades of relentless consistency in one single direction. This quote, man, it just drives the whole point home, doesn't it? Consistency isn't just about mindless repetition. It's a compounding force. It's the key that unlocks higher and higher levels of achievement. All right, so how do we tie all of this together? Focus, vision, consistency? What's the big idea? Well, the source uses one final powerful concept to unite all these principles: dominion.
Now, the source defines dominion not as power over other people, but as mastery over your own life. It's the complete opposite of just passively sitting back and waiting for things to happen to you. It's about intentionally shaping your world through deliberate focus, a clear vision, and relentless consistency.
But here's the final, and maybe the most important piece of the puzzle. It's not enough to just know these ideas. The source argues you have to actually embody them. It's about carrying yourself differently, acting with the deliberate intention and purpose of someone who is in command of their own destiny. And that's really the bottom line, isn't it? This whole thing is deliberate. It's about consciously and consistently cultivating the mindset, the vision, and the habits that line up with the future you want to create. You actively condition yourself until this elevated state of focus and intention becomes your new normal, your new status quo. And that brings us right to the final takeaway from this whole philosophy. It's a question the source kind of leaves us with to reflect on our own lives. If our reality is truly shaped by our vision and our impact is shaped by our focus, then the most important question we can ever ask ourselves is this: what are you choosing to see?